is a presentation of the iRacing Esports Network.
The IMSA Online Sports Car Championship heads to one of the homes of real-life IMSA. It's going to be the Sebring International Raceway for round number 10 of the IMSA Online Sports Car Championship, coming at you in just a couple of moments' time.
Assist to the front bumper, and he hits him again now. Rayon Fowler into the outside wall.
He's going to pass nearly 3 cars down that front straightaway, and he's going to get them all done with. What amazing!
Race lead to the inside goes Logan Clapman is going to touch in. Pit press.
Saved it.
What a save!
Look to the outside as Cronkite goes off. De Jong into second place.
Going for the switchback. Oh, pinpoint driving.
It's howling down to the inside.
I tried, there's contact though.
Slide left of the racetrack. Chris Renner drives it back down underneath, and he takes that second spot right back. Joker goes to Garrett Lowe.
Garrett Lowe should take victory with all that contact.
He's going to try and make the move around the outside the parabolica. That's not going to work, but he's going to try and get the cut back here. Get the run out the parabolica. That's beautifully done there. Michael Schubert, there's a little bit of door banging as well.
Hello everyone and welcome to RaceSpot TV Primetime, streaming live here on the iRacing Esports Network. I am Connery Maddock, and joining me this week as ever, the one, the only, Stephen Burbage. It's Sebring time, it's IMSA racing time, and well, soon, I have to repeat, soon, you'll be able to race day into night like they do in the real life 12 hours of Sebring, but we'll be very, very excited when that sort of feature arrives. But Stephen, this track, absolutely just a fixture in American endurance racing.
Yes, it is, and to be honest, this is one of my favorite circuits, not just because of its heritage, but also because how bumpy it is. You really get to see even these downforce GTE cars and GT3 cars and Daytona prototypes really working their way around on the asphalt, and more so than you see in a lot of these smoother, more modern circuits. So really excited to see what's going to happen today.
You and me both. Qualifying is just underway. We've got about a minute and a half to get that one sorted, but oh boy, have you looked at the names in GTE. We have an almost 7,000, yes, you heard correctly, 7,000 strength of field, the average iRating of the drivers in the GTE cars, and that's no surprise when you have names like Ricardo Castroledo, you have Alexandra Voss as well, you've got Thibaut Kazubon, you've got Keika Shube in there as well, so the World Championship boys are out to play, Stephen.
Yes, they are, and that always shakes things up at this series, and just, I mean, you never really know who's going to show up in what car, and it just seems to make a very interesting race week after week. And
GTE is potentially not the only interesting field that we have here today, because Looking up in that Daytona Prototype class, you have a certain Fabrice Cornelis currently topping the qualifying in that particular division, so perhaps trying to put an end to the Johan Harth dominance of the past couple of weeks. And of course, Fabrice Cornelis, got accused of iRacing farming by the one, the only Lando Norris, Formula 1 driver for next season. So there we go. This just becomes a little bit more weird when we get F1 drivers involved on our service, but it's always fantastic to see as qualifying will draw itself to a close then, and this is what your starting grid is going to look like for this week's edition of Racesport TV Friday Primetime. Fabrice Cornelis, pole position in Daytona Prototypes, and on the front row with him will be Johan Harth. The second row comprised of Kim Salverson and Joseph Ringrose, with Daniel Johnson, Carlos Bendy. We've got Mike Sendler and Morgan Svensk rounding out that prototype field. In GTEs, the stacked GTE field, Ricardo Castrolado comes out on top by around about 200ths of a second there in qualifying. We've got Antiola, P number 2, Joshua Rogers as well. That's a name I didn't mention at the start of the broadcast that I perhaps should have. He starts himself in P number 3. P number 4, Alexandra Voss, with P number 5 going to Simonich, and P number 6, Dennis Grabowski. We've got the names of Kei Kashube, Alexandra Thebe further back, Moritz Lochner as well, so many names. Thibaut Kazubon, Scott Brazier further back. You got the likes of Barry Morrison, Benjamin Gonzalez, Tyler Hervius, and Jorge Valls. That is the entirety of your GTE field. Pretty much the majority of those cars in contention for the VRS GT World Championship that we have here on the iRacing service. But looking back to GT3s now, we've got Bradley Haley taking pole position in the number 20 car. We've got Philippe Calderon as well there on that first row. Sergey Maturana and Daniel Molden will take P number 3 and P number 4 on the grid respectively. You've got Maria Hushka there, as well as Klosjiec. We've got Diego Soares further back. And then Carlos Vila, Sasha Engelhardt, Siem Skinner, Lawrence Benso, Antti Lesvoska, got Calvin Foydrant and Loic Guillardot rounding out the 37 car field here today. So as that timer ticks down to 0, these cars will not be waiting any longer, as we'll start to see in just a couple of moments that iRacing roof pace car pull off of its stationary stance. We're going to go for a full pace lap here at Sebring. Just gives us a little bit of a breather, a little bit of a chance to talk about what we expect here today. And Stephen, I think all eyes are going to be on that GTE field.
Well, definitely, if anything we've seen the last 4 weeks, GTE has provided quite the show, and we're going to see more of that. Some interesting things I was noticing today. Really surprised to see Benjamin Gonzalez so far down the field this week. We're used to seeing him up in the top 5, top 2 positions, so he might be having to charge up. Something might have gone wrong in qualifying. The other thing that I saw that was really intriguing is Alex Simonek is back, but this time he's in the Porsche. So last time we saw him in GTE, he was in the Ferrari, so it's interesting to see the manufacturer change and see how that might help or hurt him today.
You can see how maybe the Ford would be pretty good around this racetrack with the high-speed corners, especially in that latter sector. So we'll see how that one works out as the manufacturers in GTE. It's a Porsche front row lockout. It's not a Porsche second row lockout, because you've got Alexander Voss in that Ford there for Williams Esports, just mixing things up there inside of that top 5. And we've got Porsche, Alex Simonech, we've got Dennis Grabowski in a Ford as well. So a little bit of a mix at the front of the GTE field, but not much, because you do have to scroll down quite far to get to your first Ferrari. You've got the number 17 of Scott Brazier, starting P number 11 in GTEs. But in GT3s, it's a Mercedes show at the front with their front row lockout, but Daniel Molden currently, well, starting P number 4. He's going to be in the mix in the Audi as well. So a good mix of cars for both of your GT classes here today. And of course, those Daytona prototypes right at the front of the field, they'll have to deal with the large amount of GT traffic over the course of this race, which can be tricky considering that these Daytona prototypes even aren't that much faster than a GTE car. We saw in the last race that the slowest Daytona prototypes are actually slower than the race-leading GTEs. So that's how tricky that situation can sometimes be, and it does make lap traffic a bigger issue for these guys.
It can, but the nice thing we have here compared to last week at Sonoma is that Sebring, you got these nice long straightaways which you can help mitigate some of that traffic issue in the tighter sections. So I think the big key here with the faster classes as they're coming through traffic is knowing when to set up those passes so they can take advantage of these long straightaways.
Exactly. Fabrice Cornelis for Pure Racing Team. He'll lead us to our race start here this evening. And what can he do when he has multiple race winner in this series already, Johan Harth, very much beside him and very much all over his back. Well, rear diffuser in these Daytona prototypes. They don't have a back bumper.
Well,
so,
I wouldn't count out Kim Silverstein either.
Kim Salveson could be a huge
Yes.
factor as well, but there we go. Down on towards the pit lane, that pace car will pull field under the control of Fabrice Cornelis. When will he decide to go? That is going to be around about now. Green flag is going to be in the air here then in Florida as Fabrice Cornelis will lead them down towards turn number 1. Side by side for P number 3. Salveson on the inside. Joseph Ringrose on the outside trying to struggle through for grip coming through this first corner. They'll take their battle down towards turn number 3. Then Ringrose still on the outside will have to yield the position. Looking at GTEs though, we've had an early challenge for the race lead. Ricardo Castrolano has to sling it around the outside, defender even around the outside. He'll lose the position there. He was your pole position sitter. Now Antiola has got himself to the pointy end of the field. As no further behind. Alexander Voss has gone for a tumble. Multiple drivers involved coming through that first sector. Absolutely catastrophic at the front of the GTEs.
And it has not stopped. The chaos is still ensuing. That is one section, you know, you just want to take your time, especially in that opening lap, and you saw a couple guys got a little too hot and heavy, and it goes very, very wrong for everybody.
It did go very, very wrong for Alexander Voss, but it wasn't his fault by any means. Alex Simonich running straight into the back of him when it came down to turn number 3. And, well, he goes for a barrel roll. There was a separate, unrelated incident behind between Barry Morrison and Thibaut Kazubon that did contribute to that huge pile-up that we saw in the GTEs coming through the first sector. We hyped them up as the highest strength of field in this entire race of the 3 classes, and then they go and do that down in towards the first sector. That's not exactly what we wanted, Stephen.
No, it's not what we wanted, but it's not an entire surprise when you bring in a lot of new names, especially when you're dealing with a high OSOF. You kind of want to prove yourself a little bit. You start thinking, get that red mist maybe a little early on, and it's like, you know, I want to make those gains early, and at times like this, it backfires.
Very much backfires as that. We're going to have a couple of retirements from the GTE field. We'll get their names the next time that these front runners head their way across the line. But as it stands, in GTEs, Joshua Rogers, P number 3 right now, coming under threat from Denis Grabowski because he had a slow exit off of the corner of a Million Line Sunset Bend down in towards turn number 1. Wide entry into here could pay dividends, especially with the mid-corner speed, but Grabowski is not going to gain the advantage just yet. So Joshua Rogers will defend the final podium spot in GTEs. Just for now, we have a little bit of battling in your Daytona prototypes, though. Joseph Ringrose, Daniel Johnson, Carlos Bendy, they're in a good 3-car scrap right now for P number 4, 5, and 6.
And I saw there was an incident there in GT3 as well early on.
GT3s, that is going to be a very interesting predicament. It was shown on our screens, so we will have had that one, but currently leading that one will be Philippe Calderon there in that number 24 car. We've got Sergio Maturana, Daniel Molden there further back as well. We've had that pole position sitter, in GT3s actually retire from this race. So that was the incident that did get shown up on your screens in GTEs. So unfortunate for Haley when he got himself right up there on towards the front of the pack in qualifying to be taken out on lap number 1. It's never what anyone wants.
No, it's not, but further up ahead in your prototype field, we have really got a scrap going on for 4th. Whoa, and a big slide out of Sunset.
Big slide out of Sunset Bend, but I'm more interested in the battle for the race lead in GTEs, because here comes Castro Ledo down the inside. Pole position sitter in GTEs will gain the position over Ahola, but Ahola will come back on the exit of the corner. The two scrapping Porsches will take the battle across the start-finish line on towards lap number 3. Ahola's losing a little bit of ground here, coming down on towards the entry to the corner, but can he gain it back on the brakes? He cannot. Wider line taken, but he's not going to carry that through. And Joshua Rogers looking very, very feisty on the back of this one as well as they go down into 3.
Yes, they are. And further back in P4, we've got the Porsche scrapping with 2 Fords. Simonek's really just trying to hold them off. Of course, this is an interesting bit here because last few weeks we've really seen the 4 GTs dominate. So to see 4 Porsches leading the GTE field is really a change of sights for us.
And it's basically 3 drivers that we're not used to seeing in this series. Used to seeing them in the World Championship, of course, but Castro Ledo, Antti Ahola, and Joshua Rogers as well. They have made their, well, one of their first appearances in this IMSA series, at least for this season. But Joshua Rogers on the back of this leading trio does seem to have quite a lot of pace at this stage. Almost ran, I would say, about 0.6 of a second faster than Antti Ahola that last time by. So he'll look to get himself pretty quickly hopping up those steps to the podium, trying to challenge for the top one. But P number 3 as it stands. And these guys are probably going to be the main feature, at least for this first stint of the race. You can have a little bit of a look back down, though, towards the likes of those GT3s, because those guys, they're currently Calderon, Mastrana, Moldon, Soares right now, starting to spread out a little bit our GT3s. But I'm directing my attention now back to P number 2 in GTEs, because Antti Ahola coming under threat here from Rogers, diving it down the inside of Sunset Bend. Can he hold it over the very bumpy inside of the corner that you have coming through there? We'll have a loss of momentum coming off the corner, so Ahola's going to hold towards turn number 1. That was a very, very wild cut across the track for the young Australian driver. Rogers on the inside now, trying to wrestle the P number 2 away from the finished driver of Antti Ahola. They'll continue their battle down in towards turn number 3, and Rogers will have this one as he parks his car ahead on that front bumper of the fin. Fantastic move by Joshua Rogers, but he has, as a result of that one, lost a lot of time to Ricardo Castroledo up in front, and Antti Ahola might not be done here, you know, as they go down onto the brakes then in towards the hairpin. Ahola starting to find some pace once that pass has been completed, but Joshua Rogers' objective now is just to pull away and chase down that leader, Stephen.
Yeah, he is, but I mean, that is a substantial
Calderon.
gap.
Oh, P number 1 in GT3s. He's parked it on the grass on the inside of what looks to be Big Ben there. And it was a solo car incident. The corner for Big Ben tries to get on towards the power, up over the curb, up over to the dirt, onto the dirt. That is not a viable racing surface. Hits the tire barrier, tags his car all the way around. So that, once again, is calamity for your GT3 leader. It's happened twice in this race already, Steve.
Yeah, it doesn't seem to be setting well with the GT3s. The Mercedes just seem to be getting caught on the bumps, and it's just really unsettling it.
Very much the car not being very comfortable, as we'll have a look to P number 4 in Daytona Prototypes. This is Joseph Ringrose trying to defend from Daniel Johnson right now. Daniel Johnson 0.2 of a second faster on that last lap here as they come through the first sector. So if that lap times are anything to go by, you'd say Daniel Johnson has the advantage. But what sort of defense can Joseph Ringrose put up as they head their way towards the hairpin? Defensive inside line taken by Ringrose. Johnson has to go around the outside and not able to find the apex either to get the run off the corner. Has to go into a little bit of the dirt on the outside of the corner before rejoining the racetrack. So his battle will be delayed just a couple more corners, but Johnson, even though he's lost that time, oh no, that could have been huge as Johnson misses his braking point and does run into the back of Joseph Ringrose there, but it was only a love tap.
Yeah, but that nose damage is not going to be helpful when you got the two behind in P5, P6 that are chasing them down, and that might allow him to close back in and make this 4-car battle once again.
We would definitely love to see it here in Daytona Prototypes, the class that hasn't given us that many battles in past weeks has all of a sudden come alive here at Sebring with the battle for P number 4, the battle for P number 6 out there on circuit as well, and there's no shortage of fun here in this race because you have these battles in prototypes, you have those battles in GTEs as well, as Johnson once again closing up through Sunset Bend. He has a ton of pace behind the wheel of his Daytona Prototype, and now he'll look to sit in the slipstream then all the way down towards turn number 1. Is he going to sling it down the inside? Here he has the oversteer, looks towards the inside, but Ringrose, oh, he's completely overdone the corner, manages to make it to track out relatively okay, but that could have been Daniel Johnson's opportunity there if he decided to go for it. Instead, he'll follow his man very, very tightly coming through the first sector, a little bit too aggressive over that first apex, and he's still in a position to be able to challenge. So Ringrose, that qualifying lap must have been immense if it bested Daniel Johnson's best effort with the pace that we're seeing, at least in terms of the race pace here on track, Stephen.
Yeah, we are, and you know, it's funny, I'm sitting here watching Johnson, and it reminds me back to Silverstone at Spa, where he was just sliding the car around. Johnson is just hustling that prototype all around the first sector and around the racetrack, and just watching him just get a little sideways, and it brings back some of those fond memories.
Yeah, it really does. This battle will continue then as they get themselves through that middle sector of the lap here. And looking back though in GT East, let's see how they're going. Still Ricardo Castroledo leading the way from Joshua Rogers. About half a tenth of a second difference between them on the last lap, going the way of your GT race leader at this moment in time. Antiola still not too far behind, still could have a say in which order this top 3 finishes in GTE. Alex Simonich, Moritz Luchner and Kei Kashube all very close in the line there for P number 4, 5 and 6 out there on circuit. So that could be where our next flashpoint is in terms of the GTE racing here today. GT3s, they've perhaps taken on the role of the Daytona Prototypes of the past couple of weeks here, since they have all spread themselves out. Not all that much fighting going on down in here, except for between 2 teammates, Kolodziej versus Sasha Engelhardt, 25 and 26 there for the final step on the podium. But since they're teammates, maybe they're not going to fight each other all that much. Further back in the GTEs though, battle for P number 29 overall, Guillardo, Hushka and Foyderant involved in this one. So GT3s do have battles, it's just they're more near the back of the field. Looking back then to Daniel Johnson, Joseph Ringrose, I think Johnson has made a mistake at some point while we've cut away from them, since he has dropped off the back quite considerably off of Ringrose. It's just a slow first sector, I think, for Johnson. So he was previously able to string these laps together, but at this current moment, it doesn't seem to be working for him.
Well, if we go back up to GTE here, it looks like Simonek's starting to have a little bit of trouble from the Williams Esport drivers, Lohner and Kashube. So that flashpoint might be coming pretty soon, but it looks like Simonek's being able to stretch it out coming out of that first sector there.
He does seem to be able to. The Vendaval Sim Racing driver trying to defend from the 2 Williams Esports cars, Moritz Lohner and Kei Kashube. And I think Kei Kashube won't be too aggressive with his teammate here, especially when you've got another car further down the road that you both could potentially pass before even this stint is over and done with, unless these guys are going to throw the team orders out the window, as Kashube does look to be really close to the back of Lona here coming through the middle sector.
Well, I've been watching the last few laps, and it definitely does not appear team orders are in play, so these two might get tangled up. They might not. There's a lot of dynamics here to watch for.
Very much so. We have one scheduled stop in this race, and we'll expect most drivers to come down around about the halfway point in this one, if not a little bit more, trying to run that fuel tank dry. So that's going to be the situation there. As Daniel Johnson, he's dropped even further off the back of Ringrose here, and Carlos Bendy has managed to catch right back up to the back of them, 0.8 of a second on that last lap. Now Bendy is very much on the charge. He's currently sitting P number 6, which is exactly where he started, but finally he's going to look to try and start making these moves further up the field here.
Yes, he is, and I think that goes back to dive. Ooh. Oh man, you saw him lock up the fronts, Johnson getting sideways. Oh boy, I think this is really going to take off.
We've had a swap for position. Kei Kashube past Moritz Lona, and that was, if I cycle myself back, that was Lona going very wide through turn number 1, and I don't think that was I'm just going to let my teammate by because he's my teammate. He did struggle for grip in the middle of the corner, so that was more of a mistake pushing wide rather than a let the teammate by pushing wide. Do you agree, Steve?
Yeah, that's probably what it is. But, I mean, it seems like he's got the pace. Kashube's got the pace over his teammates, so this might work out better for both of them, able to learn from each other as they go around and try to chase down Simonic.
An important point as well is if Kei Kashube gets onto the back of Simonic, then any hole that he's able to make, either on the inside, outside, wherever, if Moritz Lona is following close enough, he could follow straight through and get both of the teammates past Alex Simonic. So that could be the strategy that Williams Esports are looking to play here to get themselves inside of that top 4, maybe look to chase down these top 3 drivers after that. After this pass potentially will be completed, but right now we've got Balfour P number 1 in GT3s, looking to get pretty close here. They're starting to dance within that second mark now between Maturana and Daniel Modellon. So finally, GT3s, after having a rather relaxed, I would say, first 15 minutes of this race, finally looking to get some battles on. If they get a little bit closer, we might be able to commentate a side-by-side with them. But speaking of, Kolosiec and Engelhardt, further behind the two teammates, they got very, very close and were able to look for that side-by-side, but it just wasn't to be. So GT3 is looking interesting now.
Yeah, I think what we're seeing here, though, is with P3 here, with GT3, is they're working together, using that draft. They might try a long pit strategy here, kind of bypass when everybody else pits, and then try to get some clean air afterwards and run some fast lap times drafting each other.
It could be the case, as I'm currently looking to see where the back of the GT3 field is and where the front of the Prototype field is. So the back of the GT3 field currently heading out of these Sunset Bends, and Fabrice Cornelius is about halfway down the Ullman Straight, the back straight here at Sebring. So it won't be too long before we get to see a lapping sequence with the Daytona Prototypes and the GT3 machines, which could add yet more spice to this already spicy GT field. As Moritz Lona, Dennis Grabowski going side by side then. P number 14 overall is going to be P number 6 out there on circuit as Grabowski manages to make his way through. So Lona, he's actually dropped even further back here. I wonder if he's just trying to save a little bit of fuel, because sometimes here at Sebring you can be marginal, even though because of the first full pace lap here. So hopefully we won't be seeing a fuel issue here for Moritz Lona. We did see a fuel issue for a couple of people at Sonoma last time out, so it's always a thing that you have to keep in mind.
It is. The other thing here with Sebring is it's a lot of rhythm sections. I mean, you got the long straights, but the rhythm is key, where you can gain or lose a bunch of time. And if Lona's lost his rhythm, he might be struggling to get it back, and that's also contributing to his loss of pace. Oh, speaking of which, he's going for the inside. Not sure if he's able to get it done, not quite.
Yeah, exactly. Moritz Lohner looking to gain the position back over Dennis Grabowski. It was a terrible, terrible lap the last time by for Lohner. He actually did a 2 minutes 0.6 there against Dennis Grabowski's 1 minute 58.7. So a mistake somewhere on the last lap has cost Moritz Lohner a position here. So he's going to look to try and gain that one back, but a chance at a top 3 now is starting to go a-begging for him. He's going to sit mid-pack, solidly mid-pack in your GTE field right now. But in other news, especially in GTEs, Ricardo Castrolero, Joshua Rogers, gap now within a second between the two top runners in GTE. So races on, arguably, Stephen?
Oh, definitely races on. That's what we love to see here.
We do like a good bit of racing here on Racesport TV, as we'll have our first set of prototype hitters then. Fabrice Cornelis pitting from the race lead, and Johan Harp following him in rather rapidly as well. Actually gained a good amount of time on that pit entry, brings it down to 1.6 seconds between them. They both get themselves stopped in their box relatively okay. No overshooting business going on here. They are the only visitors on the lane right now. They'll come out neck and neck. Johan Harp looking for the position off of the pit lane, but will have to drop back behind. Fantastic pit lane entry for Johan Harp has brought him into a position to challenge the Pure Racing team driver now, Stephen. That is how crucial sometimes the pit entry can be.
Oh, it can, and man, did it pay off. I mean, what was the gap beforehand? I did not check.
It was a few seconds. Yes, 2.5 seconds before they hit their way down towards the lane. It became 1.5 seconds as they were coming down the pit lane, and then all of a sudden, Johan Harp had a slither of a chance to get himself into the race lead when it came to that pit lane exit. The stop time, though, did go in the advantage of Johan Harp, though. He took about a second less fuel, so it's a combination of a fantastic pit lane entry and a shorter stop for Johan Harp that has put him in this position. So watch this space. Let's see if any of the other prototypes actually go for more of a 10-second refuel as opposed to an 11-second refuel like Fabrice Cornelis. We will just have to see. No other visitors on the lane just yet for your prototypes. So that is an interesting race brewing down in the prototypes, but another interesting battle could be on right now between Ringrose, Johnson, and Bendy. This is the trio of cars that we were talking about earlier. They've started to close themselves back up again in this one. So battle for P1, battle for positions further down in your prototypes. But how's our GTE battle looking? It's looking very close indeed. They were only separated by less than 1/100th of a second on the lap times last time by between Ricardo Castelletto and Joshua Rogers. You can't separate these guys at all.
No, you can't. That's what I mean. Wow.
Yeah, I'm sometimes always impressed by the consistency of these drivers at the pro level. It's absolutely incredible. I think it was, I can't remember the exact name, but I think it was Maximilian Benecke at Spa put in, I think it was 5 laps within a couple 100ths of a second of each other. Just incredible consistency. But right now, we've got a couple of other pitters. We've had the car of Kim Salverson down on the lane, 11.37 second stop. So that is more similar to the time that Fabrice Cornelis was stopped in his box than it was the Johan Harp stop time. So has Johan Harp gone for a little bit of a sort of short fuel here, Stephen?
He might have, and I mean, less fuel's less weight, and which means less force when you hit into bumps here, especially at Sebring. So that's, I mean, that could really work in his favor in terms of giving him more grip and more speed in the corners.
Only fuel being taken here in this series. No point in changing those tires for a 45-minute event. So I'm just waiting now, basically, for these GTE cars to come down towards the lane, because this could be the deciding factor in so many battles throughout this particular class, especially for the race lead. What have you spotted?
Oh, I was just watching this battle up here in front with Hearth and
Hearth and Cornelis.
yeah, Hearth and Cornelis, and they were just coming around some GT3 traffic, and Hearth got a little close.
We did mention it a couple of laps ago that these guys will be hitting GT3 traffic rather soon.
Ooh, Johnson's down the lane.
It might be a bigger issue. Yeah, Daniel Johnson then next visitor on the lane. We've only had one car from the two GT classes come down in. That's Barry Morrison. Came down in about 12 laps ago. I think for damage repair, so not a scheduled stop there for Morrison. As Daniel Johnson will head his way in, gets himself stopped, and fuel will go in. You won't see that car get jacked up, and we'll see Johnson get off the way in just a couple of moments' time. This is going to be an important one in terms of the battle with Bendy and Ringrose. So Johnson going for the shorter stop of the three. Let's see if that works out for him. Where does he drop out? He just comes up into a very large amount of clear air here, Stephen. So he can definitely use this to his advantage now.
He can, as long as he doesn't overdrive the car. That's the...
Yeah, you said overdrive the car. What did Daniel Johnson do? Immediately overdrive the car and source in number 3. Yeah, you jinxed him there, Stephen.
Commentator's curse.
Yeah, what can you say? What can you say? Sometimes it does just happen here. We are very, very sorry for any particular curses that we might put on some of these drivers here today. But sorry, I don't know, I just got caught up in that. But looking at GTEs then, still a battle for the race lead. Ricardo Castelletto and Oscar Rogers still close as ever, but that time a little bit more time was taken out by Joshua Rogers, and a bigger chunk than just 100th of a second. It was more like almost 0.2 of a second going the way of the Australian driver for TTL Esports. So Rogers now has a very, very good chance indeed at getting himself to the front and taking the checkered flag when all is done.
He could. I'm sitting here watching this battle of Simonek, and he seems to be closing in on P3, but they've got a prototype in between P3 and P4, and it's really kind of throwing a wrench into things. So that flash bomb's still sitting there.
Yeah, Morgan Svenk in that 37 car, struggling, shall we say, in that Daytona prototype right now, and it's similar to what we saw last week with some of the lower running Daytona prototypes actually being slower than leading GTEs. We've seen it again here. That's not really a problem that we can solve because not many people run the Daytona prototype. So if you sign up for this race in a Daytona prototype at this time, then you're pretty much guaranteed top split and a spot in the broadcast. So there we go. That's just how I'm just going to leave it. I could have accidentally signed up as a driver in Daytona prototypes and still been able to broadcast this race because I'd still be in the same session. That it's not the situation that we want, but it's the situation that we have. Let's just put it that way. But we've had... Go on.
Oh, well, I mean, the one thing that is nice is we've have more Daytona prototypes this week than we've had in the last two, so it is growing, and that's a very positive thing to see.
Yeah, exactly. Fabrice Cornelis making his appearance in the Daytona prototype. Did do quite a bit of practice beforehand on his Twitch stream before this race. I did pay him a visit, and he doesn't really like the car, let's just put it that way. He just says it's a faster GTE, as Morgan Svensk, in that 37 car, having yet more issues coming through the exit of the first sector. So he'll drop back yet more. As, oh boy.
Engelhardt just took the provisional lead in GT3, deciding not to pit with his teammate. I'm a little surprised at this call.
Yep, exactly. Pit stop phase in a full effect for GT3s. The race leader has come down in. That's Maturana with Daniel Modolon, with Marie Hushka and Kolodjic as well, deciding to get their service done. And you're exactly right. Sasha Engelhardt actually going the extra lap here in this one. Let's see if they're able to do anything with this in the number 22. And, well, I think he's going to pit perhaps in the next lap or so, just looking at things. Am I listening at a little bit of clutching there going on for the 22?
I'm not sure. I just saw on screen we had prototype of, what was it? It was Civics just go off track and gave Simonek an easy pass. Same with Koshube. So what was the obstacle for Simonek has now just disappeared.
Things go from bad to worse for Svank. Not able to keep up with Daytona Prototype pace at all. Not even able to keep up with GTE pace. As I will stop. I will stop trying to burn the drivers here today. As there we go. We've actually had visitors on the lane for GTEs. We've got Gabrowski, Moritz Lohner, Benjamin Gonzalez as well, taking their one and only pit stop service. So the GT3s and GTE pit stop windows, well, they've coincided here at Sebring, and Dennis Gabrowski will lead the trio of cars off the lane. Moritz Lohner there sitting second in line, and third in line, Benjamin Gonzalez finds the pit exit as well. So this is the interesting stage in the race where we have some drivers that have pitted, some drivers that have not, and let's see who comes out on top in terms of the early and later stoppers.
Yeah, true. Rogers is turning up the heat in the second stint. I was watching him, he just took a very later braking point and really putting the pressure on Lindo. So we'll see. I'm still watching this one. This is definitely a fire battle.
Sorry, I was distracted by what we have in the chat right now, because we've had a Mate Justice say, can we get a spotter pack that is entirely done by the one, the only Jake Sperry here on Racesport TV? The answer to that one's going to be no. No, I won't be having that. That would just be the worst spotter pack ever. As Joshua Rogers, he's going to go for this move then down in towards Sunset Bend around the outside, looking perhaps for the inside through Sunset Bend. Nope, he's not going to go for it just yet. Knows the pit stop window is very much now as they head their way in. Very close between those yellow cones. It's going to be battle of the pit crews then to decide the GTE race lead. Searching for those boxes then down on the lane. Castroledo, Joshua Rogers. We've had Antiola come in as well from P number 3. Alex Simonich. Oh no, Rogers has missed his pit box. Has to stick it in reverse to get himself back to be able to get his pit stop service done. So we can expect Ricardo Castroledo to be leading off of the lane with a much healthier gap than when he came on. So Joshua Rogers' crucial mistake in the pit stops could potentially mean that he's going to have a much bigger job trying to get this race win now, Stephen.
Yeah, that's not what you want. You want to come down a pit lane and maintain the gap or close it, not lose all the valuable time you spent the first half of the race closing in. That is a heartbreaker right there.
Very much a heartbreaker. Gap is going to be up to what looks like to be 1.6 seconds out there on circuit between the GTE race lead and second place. And that gap couldn't have been more than 1 or 2 tenths of a second when they came down on towards the lane. So that's a huge amount of time lost for Joshua Rogers right now. We've had the entirety of your GTE runners come down on towards the lane, and I've had to guess that would be, actually I can not even guess, I can see it. It's the same for GT3s as well. So every position that you see out there on track is the effective position. So we're going to have 13.5 minutes to get ourselves to the end of the race. The main battles we'll be focusing on Ricardo Castroledo versus Rogers for P number 1 in GTEs. We've got a battle going on for P for between the 25 and the 22, as I'll try to get myself to this one. Go on, take it away.
Johnson's trying to force it in between them, and that is not the place to do it. We saw all that mayhem in the first lap. Do not want to see it again. Come on, Johnson, let's just wait till the straight and make an easy pass.
There we go. Through towards Big Bend on the inside for the Daytona Prototype. So it does disrupt the battle between the 25 and the 22. The two teammates, Kolosiec and Engelhardt.
Oh, there's another one.
Will go down the inside there. That was a lunge from about 5 miles back, I would say, there for Ringrose. Very much trying to chase down Johnson. He doesn't want to lose yet more time behind lap traffic, which is why he went for that daring dive down the inside of the hairpin.
Well, lucky for him, it worked, because, I mean, the thing about a daring dive like that is it could work the opposite way, which we've seen earlier, and that just takes you out of the race, and, well, there goes your chances of catching him. So, it's, risk versus reward.
It does. You have to be erring on the side of caution, perhaps, when you're in a prototype trying to lap these GT cars. But this is the closest battle that we have on track right now between the two teammates, the Kozic and Engelhardt. As I'm pretty sure I've pronounced Soren's last name differently every single time I've said it. I do apologize for that one. But the other close battle that we have as well, Alex Simonich versus Kei Kasube. Kei Kasube is catching Simonich here, or at least attempting to. The lap times did go the way of Simonich that last time by, so he'll look to pull away from this one and try to chase down those top 3 runners.
Yeah, of course, Connery, one thing to note here, remember we were talking about if Engelhardt staying out was going to work out in terms of him gaining positions there, and it did not work out. He's actually still sitting P4 where he was before we started coming down the lane.
The thing is, it wasn't much lost, arguably, because he went for the strategy, didn't gain him a position, but didn't gain him time on the track, but didn't lose him time either. So it's absolutely fine for Engelhardt to be in this position right now. So he'll just have to race his teammate out there on track rather than the pit lane to get himself ahead by the end of the race, and he'll be disrupted here by Carlos Bendy coming on driver's left-hand side down in towards the hairpin. So right now we're in a little bit of a phase of the race where we're just starting to set up, coming into this final 10 minutes, starting to set up those late race battles that we'll have. I'm, of course, keeping my eye on Battle for P number 1 in GTEs, but I think this one's starting to get away from Joshua Rogers right now, because Ricardo Castelletto pulled out about 2 or 3 tenths of a second on that last lap. So Joshua Rogers, he needs to find another gear now, otherwise he'll just have to settle for second.
Yeah, he is, and I mean, just so much time lost on the lane during the pit stops. And considering the stops are on the later part of the race, it doesn't leave a lot of time to make up for a mistake like that. And with how tight those guys have been racing the entire time, unless there's a mistake, I really don't see that tightening back up.
That is just going to be the situation then for P number 1 in GTEs, but P number 3 in GT3s, as I'll get that one the right way around. Engelhardt versus Kozic, not going to happen down in towards Sunset Bend. Even though Engelhardt had the overspeed coming into the corner, not going to go for the hopeful lunge over his teammate. That would be an unfortunate situation if that went all wrong. We have seen it between 2 teammates before, where they get into a tangle with each other and they're not too happy with each other after the fact. So there's a little bit of, don't have some bad blood between these 2 guys now. Come on, let's go.
Yeah, that's the last thing you want. I mean, your teammates, you want to work together. You definitely don't want to be questioning your teammates going into a race.
You don't at all. Through the first sector there we'll go, coming on the exit of it right now, under the bridge, as they'll go through the Big Bend, which is pretty accurate in its description as well. A very, very wide right-hander, flat out in almost any car you will take through that particular corner, down in towards the hairpin. And in previous builds of iRacing, that used to get pretty dusty as the dirt gets brought back onto the circuit. It still does in this build of the game, just not as much as it was previously. It did become an issue earlier months, excuse me. So these guys will continue with their way through. I think they're just waiting right now for maybe more of a buffer to appear between themselves and CM Skinner, since he is quite close behind. The last thing you want to do is battle with your teammate and then all of a sudden find there's some third party getting himself involved as well because you've slowed each other down.
Yeah, that is definitely not what you want to see. Looking ahead of the GTE, we were talking about which battles we might see come in these final stages, and Simvek's starting to close on a Hola. It was about 2 tenths quicker the last lap.
Yeah, 2 tenths quicker. I'm just going to have a quick look at the relative timings. There's about 1.8, 1.9 seconds between them at the moment. So 2 tenths of a second with 5.5 laps to go. That is certainly possible for Alex Simonich to get himself into a position where he can contend for P number 3, but it is his teammate that is in P number 3, so both those Vendaval sim racing cars in those positions. I think Alex Simonich right now would be more concerned with the Williams eSports car behind of Kei Kasube, because he hasn't really been faster. They've been trading lap times over the past couple of them, so it's still a concern when you have that Ford GT in your wing mirrors, in your rear view mirror. But right now, there's nothing to separate these two guys, Alex Simonich and Koshube. So I don't know. This one might be very interesting in the last 5 minutes. Oh, we've had a car off. That's Rogers. P number 2. He's had a moment coming through Sunset Bend, and now this makes it particularly spicy for positions further behind, as he'll lose those 2 positions, lose 3 positions even.
Is he going to look into one?
Simonich, Ahola, and Koshube are all through on Joshua Rogers. What has happened to him through Sunset Bend? I'm having a look right now. It's gonna be the car breaking away mid-corner up over the bumps as well. Not able to hold that power slide through Sunset Bend. Taps the tire barrier with his front bumpers. Now we'll have a race on for your positions in GTEs that are just outside your top 3, Stephen.
Ooh, and it's already getting hot. Man, oh man. Koshube is definitely under pressure from Rogers.
Yeah, Rogers wants to recover from his mistake coming through Sunset Bend now. He doesn't have damage to that Porsche. That is one of the things he can be very, very thankful for right now, that there is no front-end damage to his car, so he can go chasing these positions. We've had a person have a moment. That's Bradley Haley. He's tried to come back out onto the track after having his incident at the start of the race, and he's not doing a good job of it right now. He's very much off the pace, and I think if this was, if the rules in the series were a little different and we were on a real racetrack, that would be the meatball flag being shown for Bradley Haley right now. He'd have to bring that down towards the lane, or else.
Yeah, the lack of a hood is not what you want to see.
Definitely not what we want to see. The 3 and the 5 then. Koshube versus Rogers. Has Rogers calmed himself down after that moment coming through Sunset Bend? Stephen Burbage thinks it's a no. I do not know, as he'll head his way in the slipstream then of that Ford down the pit straight. He will go 4 laps to go for these
there
guys.
He goes.
As Rogers down the inside, looking for the grip on the inside of the corner. He's not able to hold the position just yet. He's still in a position to challenge. Down into 3, has a look, has a jostle, not able to find his way around right now. Compromise line from Koshube. They'll take the fight to turn number 5, and it's a bit of door banging off the corner as well, and more contact afterwards. Koshube spins Rogers.
And you know who the big winner of that is? Simonich, because he just lost all the pressure on him.
Oh my word, we'll have to take another look at this one, and I think you were right, Stephen. Joshua Rogers had not calmed his nerves after that spin through Sunset Bend. Slings one down the inside late on in the first sector on Kei Koshube. Door bangs off the exit, and then Koshube, he's tracking left a little bit off the corner, just comes slightly into Rogers' line there. So make of that one what you will, and of course consider that Joshua Rogers lives in Australia. That could be a factor, but oh my words, this GTE field just keeps on giving, but I don't think it'll give any more. But by the time this race is done now, all the battles are spread out because of that.
Yeah, of course, now we've got Koshube right near his teammate.
That's one to be very interested about. As actually, he's not going to be near his teammate. He's going to be against Grabowski, who's not part of that Williams Esports outfit. In that Ford, nonetheless, though, as Koshube getting marginally faster than Grabowski that last time by. But wow, this GTE field, man, that instant as well. I'm very interested to hear people's opinions of that one, and how aggressive that move was from Rogers initially down the inside. We can talk about what happened later on, maybe maybe a little bit of outside influence being affected there between those two drivers, if you do think that's the case. But it's just resulted in both drivers now being very much out of the contention for any major position. We've got Joshua Rogers, who's still out there on track. Yes, he's in P number 8. Yes, But where is the car of the, where was that other Williams Eastwood's car? Where has he decided to end his, end up here? I'm just having a quick look. Do you find him there, Stephen?
Come on, Lona?
Yes.
Yeah, he's right there behind
There we go.
Schubert.
Oh, there we go. Excuse me, I had a little bit of a brain fart there, but we're getting into the final 2.5 laps here in this one. We've got 1 minute and 45 seconds to go, and the battles may not be over then in GTEs, because you have Dennis Grabowski, you have Keika Shube, P number 4, P number 5, GTEs, 2.5 laps. What can they do? Same for P number 3 in GT3s, because Klosiec is leading the way over his teammate of Engelhardt right now, but CM Skinner, he's made some decent inroads over the past couple of laps to catch those two teammates, so could be a 3-car scrap for P number 3 right in the dying moments in GT3. So that is one to keep an eye on, definitely. So even though we did have that incident, Stephen, the battles still keep on coming.
Oh, they do. And just kind of one thing to think about that incident is, like, you know, it's always unfortunate to see, but at least it's in the final stages of the race and not opening lap. So, I mean, that's a hard section at any time of the race, but I'd rather see an incident like that towards the end than at the beginning.
Having a little bit of a look, some people are saying action at a distance between those, between the Joshua Rodders and Moritz Lohner instance. Some saying that Lohner wasn't happy about how that move was made and perhaps cut across a little bit. So interesting perspectives here in this one. Hopefully we can get at least one of those two drivers in for an interview after this race to see and hear what they had thought of that particular incident. But having a look at the 16 and the 14 right now, Tyler Herbius versus Barry Morrison. This is one further down the field in GTEs, but they'll decide perhaps to have a little bit of a scrap before this race is done. And as the team Buschfrink Ford tries to defend against the team Buschfrink Porsche. So this will be an interesting one as Barry Morrison gets the slipstream coming through Big Bend. He's going to have a chance here down into the hairpin. Tyler Herbius, he's left the lane on the inside, but Morrison's still going to go for the outside attack into the hairpin. Not going to be able to get the crossover move that Stephen suggested, so that battle will stay as the status quo just at this moment in time. The white flag is out there on circuit then. Fabrice Cornelis, this is his last lap. He's had a relatively comfortable lead out there in front in your Daytona prototypes, and he's looking to take the race win, and he has one of the main battles that we see for the final couple of laps right ahead of him. If he gets past these guys here, that will be the race done for that particular battle. So is he just going to stick behind here and allow these guys to go another lap to try and sort out their issues? We'll just have to see what Fabrice Cornelis does here coming up through Sunset Bend. Does he pass these two GT cars or does he not? There we go. Keika Shube has actually let Cornelis through, and I don't think that will be a correct option in terms of the battle, but it'll be a correct option in terms of the fuel for Kashube, because Fabrice Cornelis heads his way across the line and takes P number 1 in your Daytona prototypes. And further back then in your GTE field, Keika Shube has headed his way across the line to finish the race, same with Lohner and Benjamin Gonzalez. Now the interesting thing is now, does Simonic and Grabowski and Carter Castellado actually have enough fuel to get themselves to the end of the race here? Because Kashube dropped himself behind the leading prototype because he perhaps didn't have enough fuel to go one extra lap. So that is the call that Kashube has made. Is it the correct call? Well, we'll see in just a couple of moments' time. We've still got the battle for P number 3 in GT3s to be concerned about, though. Klosiec and Engelhardt and CM Skinner, they're all very close together indeed. Meanwhile, the next leader that's going to come across the line is going to be Sergei Maturana. Maturana, well, just a solid race for him, consistent race for the number 18. He'll head his way through Sunset Bend, looking for the power off the corner. as he is sputtering. He has run out of fuel across the line, but Maturana manages to get to the checkered flag to take the race win in GT3s. Looking at Kłosiec then for P number 3 in GT3s. Kłosiec manages to get his teammate to the post. Perhaps they wanted to do a little bit of side-by-side across the line. Castroledo then through the final corner in GTE. He does have enough fuel to get to the end of the race. He'll come across the line to win in this stacked GTE field. So will Antiola, Simonec, and Gabrowski as well, I think, coming through the final corner. Yes, he does have enough fuel to get himself to the line. So that is the situation in GTEs. Bit of a fuel scare for Kashube, dropping himself behind your prototype leader. So he wasn't able to challenge Grabowski for P number 4 at the end of this race. But this is how your final standings are at the end of this 45-minute event. P number 1 in your Daytona prototypes goes to Fabrice Cornelis by 7.3 seconds over Johan Haas. So Pure Racing Team coming out on top over Race Clutch there in that one, with Kim Salverson finishing P number 3. That's exactly where he started. Daniel Johnson gains 1 position up into P number 4. And Joseph Ringrose loses 1 position to finish P number 5. Carlos Benzi finishes P6 with Mike Sandler P number 7. Then Morgan Spence rounding out that prototype class. In GTEs, they gave us a fantastic amount of the excitement here today on Racesport TV Primetime, but it is going to be the VRS Coanda Sim Sports driver of Ricardo Castroledo winning in GTEs, with Antiola second step on the podium, and the third step will go to Alex Simonec. P number 4, Dennis Grabowski managing to hold off Kei Kashube, who had a fuel call right at the end there to drop himself behind your overall leader, with Moritz Lohner getting himself involved in a late race incident to finish P number 6 out there on circuit. P number 7, Benjamin Gonzalez, and P number 8, Joshua Rogers. Same instance with Moritz Lohner, drops him back though to what is going to be P number 8 in the finishing standings. Tyler Hervius, P number 9, with Barry Morrison, P number 10. And then we flick over the page. We go to Scott Brazier there further back. We've got Alexandra Thieb, we've got Jorge Valls, and then your 2 non-finishers that went out very early on, Alexandra Voss and Thibaut Kazubon in your GTEs. In GT3s then, they had their fuel scares as well at the end of the race, but Maturana sputtering across the line, running on fumes across the line, still manages to take the race win in GT3s. At Modelon, P number 2, Kłosiec, P number 3 over his teammate Engelhardt in P number 4. CM Skinner, P number 5 with Hushka, P number 6. P7 will go to Villa, and P number 8 will go to Freudrents. Then we've got the final couple of runners in your GT3s. Laurent Benzo, Antti Levuska, Bradley Haley with issues early on. That's your pole position sitter finishing further back. And we've got Loic Guillardot, Philippe Calderon, and Diego Suarez not finishing this event. So stay tuned here on Racesport TV and the iRacing Esports Network, because we have the post-race show coming at you just after this.
Assist to the front bumper, and he hits him again now. Rayon Fowler into the outside wall.
He's going to pass nearly 3 cars down that front straightaway, and he's going to get them all done with. What amazing
Race lead to the inside goes Logan Clapman is going to touch in. Pit press saves it. What a save.
Look to the outside as Tronke goes off. De Jong into second place.
Going for the switchback. Oh, pinpoint driving.
It's howling down to the inside.
I trying this contact though.
slide left to the racetrack. Chris Venner drives it back down underneath, and he takes that second spot right back. Joker goes to Garrett Lowe.
Garrett Lowe should take victory with all that contact.
He's going to try and make the move around the outside the parabolica. That's not going to work, but he's going to try and get the cutback here. Get the run out the parabolica. That's beautifully done there. Michael Schumacher, there's a little bit of door banging as well.
Welcome back. It is the post-race show here on Racesport TV and on the iRacing Esports Network. We've just had round number 10 at Sebring for the IMSA Online Sportscar Championship. And, well, I'll take this first interview because it's Fabrice Cornelis, your overall race winner, your prototype race winner after a couple of hours practice. How does it feel, Fabrice?
Feels good to race again a bit. A lot of university stuff going. Yeah, I'm happy to be back a bit and race.
Ready to be back out there on circuit. I do feel the university stresses as well, so I can definitely empathize with your situation. But how is your race here today? It just seems that you got ahead out there up front and just started to manage the gap back to Johan.
Yeah, just started slowly, like not pushing too much because I didn't have that much confidence in the car. Then I just like to gap to, I think it was like 3 seconds in the pit stop, and then I overfueled with like 4 liters. So Johan was right on my back again on the pit exit. And yeah, then I just slowly started to run away again. He made a little mistake in the hairpin, and yeah, then it was just about surviving. Almost got crashed at the end by a lap DP, but yeah, luckily everything went fine.
Yeah, no late race dramas for you, as I do see that you are streaming on Twitch right now, so hello, Fabrice's Twitch chat. I hope you're all doing well, but in this one, Fabrice, are you going to get yourself behind the wheel of this Daytona Prototype more over the last few weeks that we have of this season?
No, I don't think so. I don't know this. I don't know the schedule, but I don't like the car at all. But yeah, it's the only prototype, so please, iRacing, bring a DPI. But yeah, main focus is now just going to university stuff and then just trying to combine it with SCO and then just general LMP1 and driving school stuff.
Well,
our pure driving school.
Yeah, and well, we'll definitely be looking forward to seeing you in those particular series as we have to go through this same old charade all the time. Anyone you want to thank before you go, Fabrice?
Yeah, sure. I want to thank the whole team, pure racing team. Spuizu, Adoras Walmai, and Asher Racing, and our own pure driving school, and yeah, also you guys for broadcasting this season. Yeah.
That was Fabrice Cornelis from Pure Racing Team. P number 1 overall. Fantastic performance in that Daytona Prototype. But we do have more drivers to get ourselves interviews with. We'll actually get ourselves Antti Ahola into the commentary booth. We'll get that one done. And this is going to be Antti Ahola standing by with Stephen Burbage.
Well, Antti, that was a beautiful run there. And he ended up with P2, just keeping it consistent. You did have that while where Alex Simenek was just sitting there in your rearview mirror, not quite on top, but not far enough back where you could relax. What were some of the things that kind of took you through the race and kept you consistent all race long?
Yeah, it was a great result in the end. When I saw that I couldn't match Ricky's and Josh's pace, I just kept to myself and try to keep the car on the road pretty much.
Yeah, that is the key. Got to keep the car on the road, and as we saw over the race, at least in the broadcast booth, there was a number of drivers that struggled with that, with the bumpy Sebring surface. So was there anything that you did, particularly with the setup, that you found really helped keep the car stable?
Yes and no. I already had a decent setup to work with, but I haven't had much time to make it any special, so to say. So, yes, the setup could have been obviously better, but in the end, this was the maximum result, nonetheless. So I'm happy with it, and it's a great result to the team also, with Alex finishing third. So nothing to complain there.
Yeah, nothing to complain at all, especially with a P2. So before we let you go, any shout-outs or thank yous?
Awesome job to Ricky for the win. Thanks for Racebot doing an awesome Friday broadcast, and thank you to Vendevals and Racing for the backup.
Well, there we go. Antiola finishing P number 2 in your GTE class. And he basically sounds like me whenever my mic is having issues. But we'll move on for that one, as we do have one more driver waiting for an interview. It's going to be another Daytona Prototype driver. It's going to be the driver of Joseph Ringrose, joining us today from VRT, finishing what is P number 5 in that prototype class after starting for P number 4. It was a tough race for you out there, Joseph, was it?
Yeah. First of all, thank you guys for broadcasting. But yeah, qualifying went okay. I mean, I did a race earlier and the temperatures were a lot lower than expected. So times came down quite a bit from earlier, and messed up my second lap, which I was 0.6 of a second up, which is a shame. So the P4 I was still reasonably happy with. Battled with Daniel for most of the first stint. I mean, we had a little incident where he ran into the back of me, but it was one of those things, and he's apologised, and I don't really have an issue because I didn't really have any damage from it. But yeah, P5, P4 I would have liked, but it's not the worst race at the end of the day.
Wasn't the worst race at all, as fighting mid-pack in that prototype field can be quite a tough thing, especially for this race. At least you had in quite close proximity. You had Daniel Johnson, you had Carlos Bendy, you've had Kim Salverson, not too far down the road either. So it does make a decent change in that Daytona Prototype field when you actually have other cars that are similar on pace that you're able to fight with.
Yeah, I mean, at Interlagos, there wasn't really much competition. It was just sort of me, David, and Kim. But with the addition of Fabrice and Daniel and Johan, really did spice up the field with the lead two just kind of shot off. Kim was on his own, and then me, Carlos, and Daniel kind of battled most of the race. And unfortunately, Daniel just got me in the pit stops.
Sometimes that's just the way you have to do it. Do it in the pits rather than out there on circuit. But looking into the last couple of races of this season, we've only got 2 of them to go. How are you looking for those races?
Pretty good. I'm looking forward to them. I feel like I've got a very good setup ready for Daytona. I'll be putting in the effort to get a good result there. Monza's a bit of an unknown in this car. I haven't really driven before, so that'll take. I'll do quite a bit of testing for that, but overall looking forward to the final couple of races of the season, and yeah, hopefully maybe a couple of podiums in there.
Hopefully. We do wish you the best of luck. Is there anyone you want to thank before we close up?
Yeah, as I said, you guys are broadcasting for doing a great job as always. Whole of VRT, good luck for the boys in there this weekend. Samu, who very kindly did the VRT paint, and once again all of the Kevins out there. So yeah, thank you guys.
Oh, well. That was Joseph Ringrose from VRT finishing P number 5 in your prototype class here today. But don't worry, as we wrap up here on Racesport TV, there are still yet more weeks of IMSA racing action. Next week, round number 11 from Daytona, and then the finale in a fortnight at Monza. Fantastic 2 tracks to finish off the season, but this is not the end of the racing action here on Racesport TV. Don't forget that tomorrow have the semi-finals and the grand finals of the iRacing World Cup. Can Finland hold on for yet another championship? Can UK and I challenge them this time up in the higher ranks of the iRacing clubs? Can Diach say something about it as well? We'll just have to wait and see in that one. But I've been Connery Maddock. Joining me in the commentary booth today has been Stephen Burbidge. Hugo Luis behind the cameras as always as well. Wish him a very, very happy marriage. Recently married is Hugo Luis. But that's all we have time for today. We'll see you guys next time.